ऑनेस्टली जब मैंने 20 साल पहले काम करना शुरू किया था तभी अपने काम को दर्शाने के लिए कोई प्लेटफॉर्म ही नहीं था. You had to be on the big screen. When we were making it, we knew that it's never done before because we had nowhere to reference from.
Now there's no switching off. So you're constantly at it because when you're not at your job and you're going back home, you're still expected to be on social media to fill in all the gaps.
To be everywhere.
To be everywhere and to be everywhere all the time. Because if you're not online at least 3 times a week, you're not relevant.
Tamannaah, Diana, it is wonderful to be talking to you guys.
Thank you.
We are of course here to discuss your new Prime Video show, Do You Want a Partner, which is about two best friends who start a beer company together. I wanted to start by asking you guys about the art of creating chemistry with your co-star. You know, this is a question that's usually asked in context of love stories between a male and female actor, but here we have the lovely opportunity where it's a female friendship story, which is very rare. So what goes into finding that chemistry and comfort levels between your characters? Because for us to really invest in this show, we have to invest in this relationship.
Correct.
So how do you get there?
I didn't really have a very a technical process to this, but I think the goal is the character should actually look out for the other character because they are best friends. And so you basically just channel that feeling or emotion that you normally have with your best friend, because most women are really protective about each other, and I think that was a very underlying and I like the fact that this is the first time I'm saying it in any of the interviews, but I think that was the underlying core emotion between the women, that they're protective of each other. Like one is slightly more like foot in the mouth kind of character, which is me, and you know, and she's the more like sensible, smart, but like sometimes a little, you know,
needs a push.
Yeah, needs a nudge. So I think they both balance of each other, because when she's about to like jump off a cliff, she'll be like, please don't, you know. So I think we both just had that slightly protective attitude towards each other, and I think that is when I felt like it started to visually work in the story. Yeah. So at least in pertaining to this particular show, I think that was a strategy that I knowingly or unknowingly opted for, and I don't know how you did it, but I did that, and I feel like it was translating.
Dana, what about you? How do you get that level of comfort, that equation?
So usually when you meet your co-actor for the first time, and that usually happens way before you start shooting. So you know, at a table read, and then after that at workshops, those are the places to really establish the organic equation between any two people, to see just how you naturally are, forget character apart, but just how you and the other person are with each other, as people, how easy, as Diana and whoever the other person is, to see what comes naturally, what comes organically, how easy is it to make a conversation, are you trying really hard, are you feeling awkward about it. And I feel like those first few initial meetings established what you need to work on moving forward. It gives you a fair idea of what's already working versus what needs to be addressed or worked on. In our case, like, I don't think we had to try too hard, and then of course given the script and given the scenes, and then once you start and you get into it, it just flows from there. And like Tammy rightly said, two best friends in real life too would look out for each other. That's the most natural thing, right? It's not something you have to think about. It just comes naturally to you. And I think that's what we did throughout.
But just speaking of best friends, you know, as I said, this is obviously a business story. It is a startup story, but it's also at its core female friendship story. And it's very sad how rare we see that, call it a genre, call it that category of film. Why do you think that is? Why do you feel like that equation, which can be so wonderful when we see it done well, why is it so rare? Why don't we get to see it more often on screen?
I have the same question. And have had the same question for a while, because ever since we did this, I kept thinking to myself, have I seen anything recently that depicts two female characters in this manner? I couldn't think of a single show, film in the recent past that comes to mind. And I don't know why, because it's just such a beautiful equation to invest in, or to, you know, kind of watch on screen, and I'm sure there's an audience for it. The same way there's a large audience for male friendships.
And we see about 90,000 of those.
bromances, as they call them. So why not female? I don't know. I have no answer for you, and I wish there were more. And I hope that maybe this, inspires people to do more female friendship roles and films and characters, because there's so much you can do with women. Women equations, while people say are really, really complex, which they can be, but they're also really fun. There's so many aspects to them. The serious stuff, the fun stuff, women love to confide in each other. So there's just so much you can play with. And I just think it would be so interesting if more of those were made.
For sure. Do you have a sense of why that is? I mean, do you know why that this seems to be something that people don't seem to be as excited to greenlight or look at these stories closer?
Some might think that it's more difficult to put it into a commercial format, but the fact remains that we have Dharmatic and Prime Video backing a project like Do You Want a Partner, and it's both of us headlining it. That definitely sets the tone for what is the possibility of taking a subject like this and putting it into an utter commercial format. Because I feel like even from a long form perspective, there is a lot of we see enough number of thrillers and dark stories and crime, and while I've done many of those myself, and I like that genre as well, but I feel like this really gives me a lot of sitcom energy, like what I grew up watching. Like I used to love watching Ally McBeal growing up,
Comfort watches.
Was comfort watches. It let me kind of dwell in my own romanticized state of something, and also took me into another world. Like I understood, okay, how law firms look, or at least dramatically how do they look, and it gave me a perspective of that. So essentially with Do You Want a Partner, you will get to explore female friendships and equations in general, but you will also be introduced into the startup culture, which is a really popular thing today, because everyone wants to start a business, everybody wants a startup, and 20-year-olds are popping out startups like it's like partying in college or something.
Yeah.
So it's become that common. So it's actually the marriage of two very interesting genres.
It certainly gives you hope. Speaking of starting a business, you both play entrepreneurs in this. I was curious to know how much of being a leading actor or a star in 2025 is like being an entrepreneur, because we wish it was all about craft and talent, but unfortunately that's not the case. There is a sense of there's a brand, there's promotion, perception, all of that stuff, marketing, etc. There is the body of work, there is how people perceive you. So if I wanted to be an actor, if someone's aspiring to be an actor, how much, and of that stature, how important is thinking like an entrepreneur?
I guess if you want to be, if you are somebody who really just wants to be an actor, then you can completely focus on your craft and be disconnected from the whole marketing aspect of it and the saleability aspect of it, and you can float very well in that realm as well. And a lot of people do that and are very happy and are wonderful at what they do. But if you want to really somewhere gain power over what kind of stories you want to tell, I feel for that somewhere it's important to become a brand.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's very hard to be to start making those choices consciously, as in also taking it to large sections of people. Like for example, I am all for arty cinema. It's just that I can't imagine a lot of people wanting to watch it. Yes, it'll have a niche, but it might not be, like if I want to say a very big thing, which is probably something that's very, very virtuous and something that is, a message that probably should go to people, I have to say it in the most massiest way possible, because that's the only way it reaches more people. So hence, if that is what your goal is by becoming an actor, and if you seek stardom, and if you seek popularity, or wanting to be a person that people want to emulate, then for that I think some understanding of what what it takes to make a brand is critical.
Yeah. To get to that.
Yes, to get to that scale.
Yeah. Would you agree? Is it?
I would agree. I think every actor in some way or the other is by default a brand in themselves. and the brand would be would include who they are on and off screen, their body of work, what they stand for, and to extend it a little bit, you know, the causes, for example, that they say. There's so much more to just what you see on screen.
Yeah.
Like it goes beyond that. The persona, which is an off-screen thing as well. So I feel like all of that comes together to form this brand of person, and as a result, you're by default, whether you like it or not, an entrepreneur, whether you know it or not. Sometimes
Yes, you have to be.
you have to be, and in order to keep your brand going, to get more popular, you know, to get people and as Tammy said, to get the kind of work you want to become, to have that choice of what you know you want to do versus only being able to do what is available to you. You have to work at it. So in a lot of ways, and I only just realized this right now while we're having this conversation, we all are entrepreneurs. It's just that it's maybe a slightly different kind of, you know, entrepreneur, but we are doing the same thing essentially, which is marketing ourselves, which is our own brand.
I also wanted to get both of your perspective on what it's like navigating the industry today as an actor and how much that's changed over the years. You know, Tamannaah, if I'm not wrong, this year's 20 years of you at the movies, which is insane. So, you know, congratulations.
I think both of us. No?
Me, I mean, I started modeling 20
Modeling
years
at
ago.
correct. Yeah, but
I mean,
still
Cocktail was the debut in
Cocktail,
2012.
yeah.
25.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, and that is, I think, one of the most memorable debuts. And I'm not just saying that, but I want to ask both of you. You know, it feels like those were simpler times where it was easier for an actor to have their presence felt. And today, in the age of sort of, well, streaming digital, the age of too much, it feels like it's never been easier to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time, to really find an audience. Is that something that ever concerns you? I mean, I'm assuming it's something that newer actors struggle with more, where, you know, you want to do as much work, you want to build a body of work, you also want to be known for your work, and it feels like there's so many releases, etc., etc. Is it harder to stand out and just be recognized for your work?
Honestly, जब मैंने 20 साल पहले काम करना शुरू किया था, तभी अपने काम को दर्शाने के लिए कोई प्लेटफॉर्म ही नहीं था. You had to be on the big screen, or you had to do a TV serial for it to air. We didn't have the internet, or we didn't have reels. But I feel आज का time सबसे best है for anybody who wants to be a performer, actor, or anything in the performing arts. Because all you need to do is shoot yourself and upload it. And you don't know who's watching. Like, I had this mentality of who you don't know who's watching even when I was in school, because I got my first opportunity because I was performing on stage and the producer of my first film saw me on stage. So I need, like, imagine at that time you needed someone to physically be there in that space to see you and notice you and like your work, and then you get opportunities, or you might sort of be considered even. Today it's so much easier, so actually it's a great time now.
Because you feel like more opportunity, is that fair?
There's more places to display your skills. And you don't know who's watching. And forget, back in the day it was like, okay, your country is watching. Today the whole world is watching. If you upload something on the internet, it's all over the world. So yeah, I think it's very easy now than it ever was.
But then, is it fair to say that by that logic, it's easier to be an actor today, relatively easier, but harder to be a star in terms of getting a larger audience because things are more fragmented?
The fact remains, Stardom, you can't decide if you want to become a star. You can decide if you want to become an actor.
Yeah.
That's the only choice you have. Stardom is bestowed on you.
Yeah.
People have to like you. The moment people feel like they just love the way you breathe, you become a star. But that is never going to be in your control. So people who come to the industry thinking that they want to become stars, I feel like it's so not what it looks like at the face of it. It's a lot of hard work. It's a very grueling, physically challenging job, physically, mentally, emotionally, every way difficult job. So only if you're very passionate about the craft can you actually survive to even the journey of becoming a star. And by mistake, even if you become a star, to sustain that is another story altogether. So yeah, I don't think stardom is something one should think that there are no steps to arrive at that.
Would you agree? Because I just felt that it feels harder than ever to get an audience, but maybe.
I feel like the internet and social media is a huge boon, and it's made things a lot easier for us in the, in the spotlight, and just there's just so many more opportunities and doors that have opened because of it. But at the same time, I also think that, life was so much simpler back then. You went to work. You did your work when your film released and those days it was only theatrical. That's when you knew whether you had made it or not made it. You went back home and you switched off while you were home, and then you went for your next job the next day, or whatever that job might have been, brand shoot, another film, whatever. Now there's no switching off, so you're constantly at it, because when you're not at your job and you're going back home, you're still expected to be on social media, to fill in all the gaps.
To be everywhere.
And to be everywhere all the time. Because if you're not online at least 3 times a week, you're not relevant, at least on social media, because that's just the nature of Instagram and all of those platforms. So there's no real time to switch off, really. It's just you're at it, you're constantly at it. So while it's a huge boon, because at the same time you're so much more accessible to people, like people feel like they have access to the actors that they really like, or the stars that they really worship, or whatever it is. It's also a lot, It's
sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting, but it's also, like I said, it's also so many more opportunities that are suddenly available to you. So there's no way to complain, really, because there's a lot of advantages that you're getting out of it. But it just also means that you're permanently at it. It's like a 24/7 job almost, except for the few hours that you're asleep, because then you're allowed to be asleep. But when you wake up, hey, what's my morning routine? Breakfast.
So maybe it's both. It sounds both.
Skincare.
It sounds both exciting and exhausting. Maybe it's both at once.
Yeah, it's interesting. You get used to it, and then you grow to really like it and enjoy it. But when you really think about it, you take a step back and you think about it, you're like, wow, that's a lot,
Tamannaah, we mentioned your 20-year anniversary. The other big anniversary this year is 10 years of Baahubali. So I have to ask you about that. It is one of my favorite films. I'm curious to know, just looking back, it is such a sensation that changed the course of mainstream Indian cinema. What are your memories of making it? And at what point did you realize, I think this could be something incredibly special?
When we were making it, we knew that it's never done before, because we had nowhere to reference from. And even while we were building our characters or the world was being built, it just felt like it's new, but I didn't understand that we were making something that scale, because we were shooting in green screen, so we didn't have any reference to the visual, how it would actually look. That came when we all saw the film. So till we all saw the film, nobody knew how it actually looked. But the moment that I actually realized what had happened with this film is when, in the first week, I was trying to get tickets for my movie and I wasn't getting any tickets.
Happy problem to have.
Great problem. And then I finally got a seat, but I got like the front row corner seat. So I've seen my film in a way that I am in this corner and I can see the screen, and then I can see the entire theater to my right. And I saw people like bawling. They were just like, they were in awe of what they were seeing on screen, and they felt like they had seen some kind of a magic show or something. And I think that's when I knew that this was more than just a film, and yeah, it was a special day.
It is a very special film, and we can't wait for the re-release. Just lastly, I have to ask you both, if I was a fly on the wall watching you in the days leading up to the first day of shoot or before a big scene, just preparing or getting in the zone, what would I see you doing?
Struggle.
What does that look like?
Struggle with everything. It's a lot of trying to arrive at what approach you will choose to do something, a lot of trial and error, a lot of talking to yourself. You'll see me muttering my lines away to myself and to other people, and very zoned out. So you would see a very zoned out person who, if you would make conversation with, would have replies like, huh? So yeah.
Productive zoned out.
Yeah, that's that's zoned out but zoned in sort of a zone.
What about you? What does that look like?
I think a lot, and that's me in general. As I'm always I overthink, but so if there's something big coming up, I think more than actual active prep, I just keep going through stuff, situations, perspectives, different ways to approach it in my head a lot. So, and I usually do that when I'm in the car for some reason. Because I spend a lot of time in the car with traffic and the commute, and I just find that that's my time to really and the car also helps me just observe a lot around me, so that it helps. Sometimes the smallest things you can pick up from where you're least expecting them, and a lot of prep for scenes is actually in these most indirect ways. So yes, of course, there's the going through the lines, because for me, I need to know my lines pat. Like, just I need to not be thinking about them. So it has to be second nature to me, and I spend a lot of time preparing on my lines. I'm not one of those that can walk onto set and start learning dialogues on the spot. So I need those 2 or 3 days to be absolutely prepared with dialogue, so that that's not coming in the way in any way. And then, like Tammy said, just repeating them in your head in different ways. Trying different approaches, so it's a lot of mixed ways of going about it. There's no fixed structure really, but for me it's a lot of just thinking and visualizing. I visualize a lot in my mind. I imagine myself on set. I imagine myself in the scene. I imagine myself having done a really bad job. Then I imagine myself having done a good job, and I don't know, there's just, there's almost a film playing in my head. And that's how I prep, and for some reason it's worked so far, so I'm just going to stick to it. And there's no real fixed anything. But yes, it's learning dialogues, and it's also just approaching scenes in different ways that for me has really worked.
I love that idea that the ideas will strike you when you least expect them.
Yes.
That's the real prep. But no, thank you to both of you, and we really look forward to the show, and we need more stories like this. So thank you.
Thank you.